All right, have a seat. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I have one more, another stipulation to read you again. I'll just remind you, a stipulation is an agreement between both parties that it is a fact you are to consider having been proved beyond a reasonable doubt, in that the parties are not in dispute about this evidence. And in this case, the stipulation is as follows. Jermaine Bass, JJ, the son of the defendant, the victim named in counts 3 and 4 in the indictment in this cause, has been interviewed by both the defense and the state of Florida. Both sides agree that JJ has no memory of the events leading up to or occurring on the night of August 29th, 2022. Due to his lack of memory, the state and defense agree that he will not be called as a witness. And this stipulation or agreement is signed by Ms. Schlemmer, by Mr. Bass, and by Mr. Terry, the state attorney, and dated today's date. Any questions on that? All right. You can call your next witness.
State Attorney Bethany Ross.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
If you would please introduce yourself and spell your name for us.
Bethany Ross, Bethany Ross.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Ms. Ross. Oh, it's still morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Please turn to the jury and tell them where you work.
The Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office.
How long have you worked for the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office?
It'll be 10 years next month.
What do you do there?
I'm a criminal intelligence analyst in the Criminal Investigations Division.
How long have you been a criminal intelligence analyst?
About 6.5 years.
What did you do before that?
I was a deputy for about 3.5 years.
Now, when you become a criminal intelligence analyst, what's required of you when you transfer from being a deputy to a criminal intelligence analyst?
Yeah, you're learning completely new technology, completely new applications. It's all about getting information that the detectives may need for their case, and then obviously in a prosecution of a case later as well.
Give us some examples so the jury can understand what kind of things do you work on during your experience as a criminal intelligence analyst.
So I help identify people in a case. I help give them cell records.
So when you're talking about mapping cell records, help us understand the process. What goes into mapping cell phone records?
We get provider information such as T-Mobile, AT&T, and Verizon. They give us like an Excel document that has latitude and longitude of, say, like the cell phone tower that cell phone connected to. And there you can map that information.
Are you the one who generally requests these records from providers such as T-Mobile or Verizon?
No,
Who usually does that?
the detectives.
Now, once the detectives receive that information, what kind of information is usually inside of the packet that you get?
Yeah, there's got to be a date, a time, that phone number, the target phone number that they were looking for, who that phone number was talking to, if it was voice records, and then it would also be the tower information so that you can map that information.
I'm showing you what's been entered into evidence, and I'll put it on the Elmo here if I can have some help. Thank you. This is what's been entered into evidence as States 29. Is this an example of some of those records that you would receive in order to do your job as a criminal intelligence analyst?
Yes.
Okay, and did you in fact receive the documents from T-Mobile in this case that are included in this States 29 involving the defendant, in this case, Jermaine Bass?
I did.
When you receive these documents, help us understand what is the first thing you do when you receive call records from, in this case, for instance, T-Mobile?
I make sure that it has the relevant time that we are looking for, that it is the correct phone number, and then that there is mappable information within those records.
How do you know whether or not there is mappable information in the records when you receive it?
It's filled out in the latitude and longitude columns. It's filled out in the E-node columns, everything that denotes that a tower is being used and that tower information is present.
Explain to the jury how you became involved in this investigation involving the defendant in this case, Jermaine Bass Jr.
The lead detective, Detective Gabo, asked me to map a certain time period of these records.
Now, tell us the phone number associated with the records that you were asked to map. And if you need your memory refreshed by your report or your map, let me know and I can do that.
Yes, I would have to look at the records for that.
Okay, I'm showing you what's been entered into evidence as State's Exhibit 21. Is this a map you created along with your experience and involvement in this investigation?
It is, yeah.
Can you read out to the jury the phone number that was used in order to map in this investigation?
That's 813-696-7195.
Do I have permission to publish to the jury, Your Honor?
Yes.
To aid in your testimony, before I do that, so you receive these T-Mobile records. You make sure that they have information that is mappable. What do you do after that?
From there, we use a program called CellHawk that actually takes that file and creates that map so that it's not like I'm hand drawing it. It can make that map.
You told us that you've been a criminal intelligence analyst for, what, 6 years?
Yes.
During that process of becoming a criminal intelligence analyst, did you receive training in how to use this program that you described as being called CellHawk?
Yes.
What's the training involved? Just briefly describe it for us.
Yeah, they take you through every step of getting the records, looking at the records, and then mapping those records and how to interpret that information.
When you put the records into the program, does it map it for you?
It does.
Then what do you do after this program produces the map?
I take a screenshot of that in order to put it in a document with all of that original information that we got from T-Mobile so that we can see it together.
So when you initially become a criminal intelligence analyst and you learn how to do CellHawk, do you maintain any sort of continuing education on the changes that happens with updating technology?
I do. I have to keep up to date with that stuff because it changes constantly. So at least once a year, there's webinars and a lot of different information out there that I'll keep up with.
And do you maintain that continuing education for the CellHawk process?
I do.
Tell the jury approximately how many times during your career as a criminal intelligence analyst that you've used this mapping process with this program called CellHawk.
Hundreds of times.
So in this case, the investigation involving Jermaine Bass Jr., the defendant, you receive his cell phone records from, who's the provider?
T-Mobile.
And tell the jury what you do next.
Once I have that screenshot, then I will put it together in a document to give to detectives and put in the case.
So I'm placing on the Elmo what's been entered into evidence as States 21. Is what we're looking at in States 21 an example of the mapping that you just discussed?
Yes.
So you use the information provided within the T-Mobile records, you put it in this program, and this is what it spits out.
This screenshot is, exactly.
Okay, so I want to talk about the map. Let's orient the jury what we're looking for in the map, okay? On the bottom left-hand portion, I see West Shore. I'm pointing to it with my finger. In fact, there is a line right through the word West Shore. Is that West Shore Boulevard here in Tampa?
Yeah, West Shore Boulevard is in that area, and that West Shore is denoting that that's kind of the area, West Shore.
Right above that, we see another line and it's two lines together. It looks like almost kind of a pie chart situation right above Tampa International Airport. Is that correct?
Exactly.
Can you zoom for the jurors, please?
Oh, sure. And for the record, I'm zooming in so that we get a closer look at what I just pointed out to be the West Shore in the bottom left-hand corner area and what the witness has described as Tampa International Airport right before that. Right to the left of Tampa International Airport, we see symbols that look like it would be some sort of highway with a circle, a white circle that has numbers on it. What is that representing?
Yeah, that's showing 589, excuse me, and this is using actually like Google Maps information.
And then if we go up in the middle, we're seeing two half pie graph almost situations. To the right of that, we're seeing University Square. Tell us what area we're looking at now.
Yeah, the university area or the University Square area.
Right through that, we see yellow lines and a marker that is commonly known to be an interstate marker. Tell the jury what interstate marker that would be.
I-275.
Tell us about the text boxes that we see on the map. We're going to go one by one, but a general understanding of where does this information come from? Does the CellHawk program produce the map along with these text boxes?
No, the CellHawk program gave me that map, and from there I go back to those records to copy paste this tower information, the date and time, and that incoming or outgoing call information along with the duration into these little text boxes so that I can show exactly how that tower relates to the information that T-Mobile gave us.
Now, throughout the map, and again, we'll go one by one, we see what looks like lines that have like a half circle on them. I also see one that is a full circle. What do those symbolize? Just so the jury understands before we go one by one.
For that full circle, T-Mobile is not able to give us a direction, so we just have a 360 around the tower. For example, to the left of that, it's showing kind of southeast, and that means T-Mobile was able to give us a direction, which is southeast of that tower.
So what do these markers or the pie graphs or the circle, what does it indicate? You're saying it indicates a tower, but what about the tower?
That tower was in communication with that cell phone during that incoming or outgoing call.
So the purpose of the shape or the marker on the map shows us where the cell phone is at any given time?
It at least shows the direction from the tower that the cell phone was in.
Okay, so I want to start at the top text box. We see a full circle, which again indicates to you that the cell phone is bouncing off this tower,
Yes.
correct?
Yes,
But it's not indicating to you a location in which it's heading. Is that safe to say?
exactly.
Now, we see a line with, it's an arrow, to the right of the circle, and we see a text box that I'm pointing to. It's the topmost portion on the right side text box. Explain to us what that means, that text box.
It starts with the E node B, the sector, and the azimuth, which is all going to be tower information. That azimuth is blank. I just have a dash there because we don't have a direction, and that's actually where that would come from. The location is followed by that, and that's literally the latitude and longitude of the tower. And then we have the date and the time, and it was an incoming call from this phone number, 361-217-7632, and the duration is 0 seconds. There was no duration.
So we have that at 6:04:03 p.m. Next in time, we see to the left two lines intersecting, right encompassing the words University Mall. It encompasses the two first letters U and N. Explain to the jury, and if you need to stand up and point or come over here and point, Judge, does she have permission to do that?
Sure.
If you
Probably
can,
going to you is probably best.
yes, ma'am. If you can please come around so that you can point to yourself on the Elmo.
Make sure you describe with words too.
So specifically, and I'm going to rearrange. We see a top text box on the top left corner. I'm pointing to it right now. From that text box, we see a red or orange arrow pointing to the pie graph encompassing the first two letters of the word University Mall. Now, I noticed that this graph we're looking at, the symbol is different than the circle. And if you don't mind, can you come around this way and stand right there to point so that we're just not blocking the jurors? Can you point to the University Mall one and explain to the jury the difference between the circle we just saw and the information that it provides to you and this pie graph that we're looking at that's kind of like a semicircle with two lines? What's the difference?
So in the original one, the circle, right in the middle of that is going to be where that tower is, where that line is inside that circle. Instead, on this one, it's where these two lines meet. The tower is actually going to be right there. and we get that southeast direction because it's kind of facing southeast.
The semicircle that we see shaded in connecting those two lines, what does the semicircle symbolize to you?
This is just a display. It's half a mile out from the tower. That does not mean that the cell phone was half a mile out from the tower. It's a traditional kind of display for this type of information.
And let's talk about the text box that's associated. We pointed out before the top most left one. We see it says the E node B, the sector, and explain to us, the one before didn't have an azimuth. What is an azimuth?
Yeah, this azimuth is 120, and that's a degree out of 360 of a circle. So that 120 gives us the southeast. That's what the azimuth is.
So the 120 or the numbers next to the word azimuth indicate to you a directionality
Exactly.
of the cell phone itself or of the tower.
That's the direction the cell phone was in from the tower.
So the cell phone in relation to the tower, you can tell to a certain degree.
Yes.
Okay, so in this one we see 120. Now we see the location, which you indicated before is latitude and longitude, is that correct?
Exactly.
We see the date 8/29/2022 at 7:15:21 p.m. Tell us what the outgoing call number is.
That's 813-516-3376.
Now, outgoing call, does that mean the number listed above, 813-696-7195, is the one who dialed out?
Exactly.
And if we see a label later on, incoming call, does that mean that the number listed below the words incoming call placed the call and dialed to 813-696-7195?
Exactly.
Okay, so the next in time, we see 7:16:04 p.m. For the record, I am pointing out a text box that is the second from the top on the top left side. We see an arrow coming from that, pointing to two lines that intersect with a semicircle. It is right below, encompassing the bottom portion of the N on North Tampa. I see that to be to the left of Busch Gardens, Tampa Bay. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, tell us what information you were able to receive and what that line and semicircle means to you based on this information.
So exactly like before, those two lines intersect, and that's where that tower is. But what's different this time is it's facing northeast. In addition, we've got this incoming call from 813-516-3376, and it was a duration of 65 seconds.
So this number, 813-516-3376, placed a call that was answered by 813-696-7195, and we've previously identified that the 696-7195 belongs to the defendant. So let's talk about the next call in time. We see, let me get it on the map correctly. 8:37 p.m. We see it's the third text box on the left side, touching the left portion of the map. We see arrow coming below, and we see two lines with a semicircle right above the words Tampa International Airport. Tell us what information you were able to gather during your investigation about this specific time, August 29th, 2022 at 8:37:56 p.m.
There's actually another one that's at 8:20, which was just before it.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so 8:20, here we go. 8:20 and 43 seconds. We see this one almost looks like a straight line with more of a semicircle than we've seen before, right below the words West Shore, with an arrow coming out the bottom corner of a text box. If you're looking at the graph, it would be second from the bottom text box to the left. We see at 8:29:22, at 8:20:43 p.m. Tell us what that symbol is, because it looks a little different than the other ones that we've seen so far.
I had to divide this one into the left sector and the right sector because that tower is used multiple times, but with different sectors. So this one in particular, 8:20, is the left sector, this one right here.
Okay.
And that's going to be an incoming call from the 727-315 3379 number, and the duration.
It's 3329.
Oh, I'm sorry about
Well,
that.
you are
3329.
backwards, so it's okay.
It's upside down.
Yes.
So, and that duration is 0 seconds on that one.
Okay, so what does the 0 seconds indicate to you?
It most likely was not answered, or it didn't complete.
Okay, so that's 8:20 and 43 seconds. Then we have 8:37 and 56 seconds. This is the one that we were talking about before, where there is a symbols above Tampa International Airport. Tell us what you know from your investigation of this specific symbol at 8:29 on August 29th of 2022 at 8:37:56 p.m.
So this one is facing practically north, and it's an incoming call from 727. Let me not mess this up. 315-3329, and that duration is 0.
Let me sorry. I'm gonna make sure this is in the correct position. So then we see a text box on the right, it's the right bottom quarter, and we see at 8:29:22 at 10 o'clock with 30 seconds p.m. Tell us what information that you were able to gather during your investigation about this specific area.
So we are now on the right side of this tower that we've talked about before, that's just in this West Shore area. And this is an outgoing call to 727-315-3329, and it was a duration of 15 seconds.
Right below that, included in the same text box, we see 8:29:22 at 10 p.m. and 54 seconds. Tell us what you were able to learn about that specific hit off the cell tower.
Yep, same, it's the same right side. The outgoing call to 727-315-3329 for 5 seconds.
Let's move below the bottommost portion. We have, there we go, it's centered now. A text box on the bottom. And we see at 8:29 of 2022, 10:01 p.m. and 43 seconds, an outgoing call to 727-315-3329 with a duration of 43 seconds. Show the jury where that cell tower pinged.
So the tower is right here where these two lines intersect, and we're a little bit farther south from the other tower that we've been talking about, still in the West Shore area, and it's facing basically north or northeast.
Now we're going to, we're looking at the top quadrant. We've already discussed the topmost portion of the text box. And we see that the circle that we have has an arrow next to it with a text box we already talked about from 6:04 p.m. But below that, it looks like there's 2 other phone calls. So I want to discuss 8:29:2022 at 10:19 p.m. and 37 seconds. Tell us what you learned during your investigation.
So it is this one with the full circle here, and it is an incoming call from 727-315-3329.
Below that, oh sorry, go ahead. Okay. Below that, we see it's within the same text box, August 29th of 2022. We see at 10:34 p.m. and 58 seconds. Tell the jury what you found out during your investigation.
That one is an outgoing call, and it is to 813-516-3379, and that duration is 5 seconds.
And that information indicates to you that this phone number belonging to the defendant called out at 10:34 p.m. and 58 seconds, correct?
Yes.
May I have just a moment, Judge? I don't have any further questions.
All right.
Do you want this?
Cross. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, so you are not here today testifying as an expert in cell phone mapping, correct?
I don't know if they've listed me as an expert, or I don't know.
All right. Have you ever been in court before and you are declared an expert? Are you aware of anything like that?
There was one time during a federal trial, yes.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. So basically, let me get the gist of what you do.
you received a CDR, correct?
Yes,
In this case, you received a CDR of Jermaine Bass, our client.
yes.
Right. You took that CDR, you plug it into CellHawk, which is the program.
Yes,
All right. And in your own words, CellHawk spits out the data, right?
it creates the map, yes.
Creates the map, right? And you said something about a screenshot. So CellHawk creates the map. Is it going to create exactly what we're looking at besides your additional boxes?
Exactly.
Okay. You take a screenshot of it, and then you're going to go, what, back to the CDR, the same CDR you used, and make your little boxes?
Exactly.
Got it. Okay. What else do you do?
After that, I need to put it all together in this document, and this is a header that we typically use on all of these documents, so I add that header, and I'll
like
add my signature and the date.
Okay. Like prepared by
Exactly.
CIA Ross, and then up here, HCO case. Okay. What do you do to validate what CellHawk has told you?
So what's good is with latitude and longitude, you're able to throw that into Google Earth, Google Map, whatever, and that is able to show the exact pinpoint that CellHawk has made where that tower is. That's how you can verify those records.
Okay. So is that your testimony that that's how you're verifying the CDR?
Yes.
Okay. But that again is going to come, the latitude and longitude, from that CDR.
From T-Mobile, yes.
Okay. Now, in terms of where a tower is located, did you do any verification of what CellHawk spit out by doing a drive test?
No, that's not typical for us.
Were you ever requested to do a drive test?
No.
All right. This CDR that you were given it by Detective Gabot, correct?
Yes.
All right. He gave you a specific date and a specific time.
Yes.
All right. You did not receive CDRs from any other individuals, correct?
No, not that I recall.
Okay. I wanted to ask you a little bit about, for example, when we see a 0 duration in the map you made. You agree with me that T-Mobile doesn't really give you in very plain, simple English if a specific call with a 0, if it was answered or not, correct?
Exactly. You have to, yeah, you don't know.
You don't know. Okay. And in fact, isn't it true that there could actually be other calls as well that are not mapped? CellHawk doesn't map them because, for example, there are some reasons it just didn't connect. That call didn't connect to the tower. It was iPhone to iPhone, or there could be signal issues. So there might be other calls, and for some of those reasons, they won't get spit out by CellHawk.
Yes, they can't be mapped because that mapping information just doesn't exist.
Right. Okay. Now, did you use a cell site list to verify your data?
Yes.
Okay. Which cell site list did you use?
So T-Mobile has uploaded to the CAST team on LEAP. It's a government website that the FBI uses. They have cell phone towers uploaded into there on a regular basis, and that's the one that we use within CellHawk.
Okay. Did you use it specifically in this case?
I did.
Okay. Which version, or what was the date or approximate date of the cell site list from T-Mobile did you use?
October of 2022.
All right. Were you aware that in August of 2022, T-Mobile and Sprint merged?
I don't know the exact date, but I know that they merged.
Okay.
Yes.
And you used October. Is there another one also in December of 2022?
There should be, yes.
Okay. Now, when you're on CellHawk, you get a little box that even pops up and tells you, you better use that cell site list because that's the best practice, right?
Exactly.
All right. And it's your testimony you did that in this case.
Yes.
I wanted to ask you and just clarify a little bit about this azimuth. So let's look at the one from 715. For example, we have it as upper left-hand corner of your map, 71521, pointing over to that very first, what do you call that? With the lines in the shaded circle.
Right here.
What do you call that?
This is like a sector.
Sector. Okay. And so that's that first sector, correct?
Yes.
All right. So now, what is the azimuth for that sector?
That one's 120.
What does that mean?
It's 120 degrees of that 360 degree of a full circle. So they choose 120 to be that southeast portion.
Southeast portion, all right. So you're not telling us that that phone is in that shaded portion, correct?
Exactly, that is not the case.
Right. What's the radius? Can you tell us what the radius would be of where that phone may be?
No, these towers, this information does not have like a radius and a distance from the tower, just the direction.
Right. So in fact, all you can tell us is what you have plotted, that that cell phone is in that direction from that tower.
Exactly.
Okay. It doesn't mean it's in that shaded area at the time.
Right, exactly.
It just means it's in the direction from the tower. So in this case, we would have, I think you said, is it southeast, or for that first one it's 7:15?
Southeast.
Southeast, okay. So we don't know how far, it's not in the shaded area, but somewhere that phone is in that direction, southeast, from that area.
Exactly.
Okay, simple as that, right?
Yes.
All right. So you're not telling this jury you can place an exact location of a phone.
I cannot.
Okay, you cannot give us a location if it's at a restaurant or sitting on the interstate. You can't give us any of that, correct?
Right.
Okay. And you cannot, with the records you received in this case, give us any idea how close to the tower itself that phone may be.
Right.
Okay. Did you ever receive timing advance records in this case?
I don't recall if I did or not.
Are those a little bit more accurate in?
So they may have that distance from the tower that we talked about before.
Gotcha. Are you aware that when Detective Gabot did his search warrant in this case, and he just talked about it, that he requested timing advance records?
I don't know.
You use timing advance records pretty commonly in this,
Yes, when we do get them.
and you're going to get better information.
Sometimes, yeah.
Okay. So in this specific case, the only thing you had was the CDR data, not any sort of more accurate timing advance records.
As far as I remember, yeah.
Okay. All right. Besides the CDR itself, and we have it in evidence here, what else do you recall actually receiving from T-Mobile, if anything?
It comes with possibly data information. It depends on how they package it and give it to us. But I used just the voice records on this one.
All right, we're not talking about data, use of data.
No.
Okay. All right. Looking at my notes to see if I have any other questions for you. May I have a moment?
Yeah.
Thank you, Judge. Co-counsel has reminded me, please just tell the jury what a drive test is.
A drive test is you use a device, this sort of like box that goes with you in the car when you physically drive by a cell phone tower. And that's how you can also confirm these azimuths and these latitudes and longitudes and stuff of the tower.
And you cannot testify to the accuracy of these actual CDR records you received. You're just relying on that data.
I rely on the data that T-Mobile provided, yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ms. Ross. I don't have any other questions.
No regret, Judge.
All right, you can step down. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Is she released from her subpoena?
Yes, Judge.
She is not, but she can leave the court.
She is not, but she can leave the courthouse?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, we will go ahead and take our lunch break at this time. It's 5 till 12. I will see you back here at 1:15. Same admonitions you always get, and enjoy your lunch.
All rise.